Okay, it is that time. Welcome again for another round of introduction for those just joining us. My name is Eric Riles. I am the Vice President of Customer Solutions here at ALM Intelligence. And for the next hour or so, I will be walking you through our newly redesigned, improved, and updated VerdictSearch platform. I know we've got kind of a wide array of audience here today, ranging from existing clients to previous clients to folks who maybe aren't as familiar with the platform. So we're going to hope to have a little bit of something for everyone. Before we really get underway, I want to walk through a couple of housekeeping items that are germane to this particular webinar. Although you can all hear me, I cannot hear you, as the phones are in presentation-only mode. That said, you can and absolutely should feel free to interact with me/us by asking questions using the question asking panel in the bottom right-hand part of your screen. On your little webinar side platform there, you should see a question box. You can just type your question in there, hit enter, click submit or send, or whatever the computer tells you to do. We will see the question and we will do our best to respond to it in as near real time as we can. So I've said us and we a couple of times now, for those of you astute listeners. I am joined on this call today by Glenn Koch. Glenn is the head of our whole VerdictSearch unit here at ALM and has more experience than any 8 other people in working with the platform and the data. Glenn, are you with us?
Good morning, everybody.
Wonderful. All right. So let's go ahead and get in here. Fasten your proverbial seatbelts. It's going to be a VerdictSearch extravaganza. So let's start at the start with what is VerdictSearch. And again, for those of you veterans, I apologize for some of the basic overview. But VerdictSearch is a repository of cases, meticulously researched, tagged, indexed, and organized. It is an invaluable tool for helping you do a lot of things during, pre and during the trial as well, finding precedents, similar fact patterns, evaluating potential awards, even providing insight on the best kinds of juries or jurisdictions for your cases. The basic idea is to provide a tool through which you can develop your own customized set of analytics tailored to the specifics of whatever matter you happen to be handling. So how does it do all of those amazing things? Well, let's dig in. So I'm on the main VerdictSearch site right now. You can click login and go right to it. I am sneakily already logged in on this tab, so we'll bounce over to here. The first place we're going to go is, to my mind, the most important in the product. It is our search engine. So this is the main dashboard screen. We got a couple of basic things in here. We'll come back to this. But for now, I want to pop into the search because the search is really what makes this tool special, right? The whole point of the search is to look through our 200,000 cases and find the ones that fit your similar fact pattern. So we're going to talk about the mechanics of how to use the search engine. We're going to talk about the various use cases that you can tackle as you're going through and how to do each one of these things. Glenn is going to chime in wherever appropriate or wherever I beg him to. And again, if you, the audience, has any questions at all, please feel free to ask them in the question asking panel. So use case number one, and by far the most common thing that people do with VerdictSearch, is they look through our cases to find matters that are similar to the ones they're dealing with right now. Did your client get bit by a dog on the leg in Southern California? Well, guess what? We've got 16 other cases where that exact same thing happened. Now you can come in, go through, look at those patterns, and see were there plaintiff awards? Did the jury side with the defendant? Was there settlement or arbitration? All of these things come into play. So we're going to actually do a couple of searches here that are, I would say, archetypal of what you would want to actually do with this tool. So in our hypothetical, we've got a guy who had some kind of severe ankle injury requiring surgery, and he injured his ankle somewhere in the Bronx in New York. Let's say the guy's about 40 years old. So how do we go ahead and actually begin to do our research to figure out what we should be thinking about for this case? So I threw a whole bunch of stuff criteria at you guys a second ago. So let's kind of back it out and go one by one. I like to start with kind of the biggest, most important aspect of the case, and then kind of winnow my way down into the specifics. So we're going to start with the injury type. So we're just going to come here to this drop down, type of injury. So I click this drop down, and I get these sub menus underneath it. So I could select all, but that's not what I'm looking for. What I want ankle information. So here's my ankles, but I don't want everything about ankles. I'm looking for some specifics. So I can open up this drop down by clicking this little triangle dealy here. And now I can look for ligament tears, dislocation, fractures, fusions, sprains, strains, automobiles, the whole shebang. We're going to go with ankle fractures. So I'm going to click it, and what it's going to do, so you'll notice that there's a separate drop-down here as well for all these little sub-items. The reason that it's so important to have this stuff tagged in a meaningful way is, when you are doing this research, you're going to walk into the courtroom, or you're going to walk into arbitration, you're going to meet with a claims manager, and you're going to say, here are the facts of the case. You want to have 5 or 10 really specific examples that are germane to your particular matter. So not just, oh yeah, the guy hurt his ankle, but the really specific details of the case. Because the guy who hurt his ankle because he got run over by a bus is different than a guy who slipped getting out of his own bathtub and hurt his ankle, right? So we recognize that, and so we tag things accordingly. In this case, by clicking ankle fracture, it highlights everything in the subcategories, which for us is fine. So once I kind of click away from this box, you'll notice that the estimated set of results here, which is currently 0, because there's no criteria, will begin to populate. So watch, I'm going to click away from here, and it's going to do a little bit of thinking and show me, okay, great, we've got 3,600 cases of this ankle injury of the kind you were telling us about. So wonderful. Let's say that we want to add a little bit more to it. We can come right back here to type of injury, and we can add any other criterion that we want, right? So in this case, let's scroll down. Let's look at the surgeries and treatments. And let's take a look at kind of the more severe forms. So we're going to go with internal fixation and open reduction, right? So I click away again. My numbers change as it finds more and more cases. And so now we've got these 3 items here. So I also mentioned this is going to be in New York. So let's go ahead up to the state, grab New York, and this is fairly straightforward here. If you see a state that's grayed out, it means that we don't have a case that matches your criteria in that state. So here we'll grab
Eric,
New York.
if I can jump in here.
Please.
If I can jump in here, let's back up a step. When you selected the ankle fracture and the surgery, the open reduction internal fixation surgery, you want to go one step further and click the all of these button, which I know you can demonstrate, to show that we're looking for cases that have all 3 of those types rather than any one of those 3. And that's going to bring our search results over on the right side in the yellow circle down. So if you keep an eye on that, when Eric makes the click, you'll see that the numbers go down as we get more specific.
All right, so right now we're on any of these. For those of you who are more familiar with search terminology, this would be structured now as an OR search. We're telling the computer, I want to find people who have either an ankle injury or this internal fixation or open reduction. By clicking all of these, those ORs become ANDs. And now I'm telling the computer, I want to find cases where all 3 of these things are true, where there's an ankle fracture with internal fixation, with open reduction. So as Glenn noted, it really dropped down our number of cases down to about 510, which is great because we want a manageable number of cases to look through. So let's continue on. We got New York. Let's go real quick to the county. It's going to be Kings County. Now that brings us from 510 to 98. So still a lot of cases. So let's apply more filtering. I'm going to scroll down here. And I'm going to leave the award amounts alone for now. If you wanted to look for cases that were awarded between a certain amount, you can certainly do so here. But for the moment, I want to find cases where the plaintiffs kind of look more like my existing guy, right? This 40-year-old. So let's give him plus or minus 10 years on either end. So let's say we want to go 30 to 50 years old. That drops us down to 52. And now let's say we are looking for fellas. So we want to find other cases where there is a male between 30 and 50 years old with this ankle injury, with all of these other items here. So once we've got this down to a manageable number, we can go ahead and click on the search icon. That's actually going to execute the search. Glenn, about how many cases are we looking for before we can actually get on to our next step of really evaluating those cases one by one to try to find similar items? Is 34 too many, not enough? Should we be doing more filtering? Help me out here.
Yeah, I would say 30 to 40 is about a good working number, because you're going to have to read through all of these reports and weed out the ones that don't apply to or aren't similar to your case. So that's a comfortable number. And then once you do the search, if you find that your results are you don't have enough good hits, you can always go back and expand the search and get more cases.
Excellent. That makes perfect sense. All right, so 34 is a good number. Let's click search. And we'll see if we can wipe out our little yellow circle now, which is not doing a ton on this screen. All right, so we got our 34 results. The way that they organize once you've executed your search. So this is kind of what we're looking at now. We've got, I think, we have 10 records per page as default. You can increase that number as you see fit. You'll see that we've got a basic write-up of the case here. So we got some basic facts. We got a little case title. We got the venue. We got state. Notice all this stuff is highlighted to show you, hey, the thing you were looking for, here's where it is. So you can go really quickly. Yep, ankle. Yep, surgeries. Good, that makes sense. Little bit of write-up on the facts of the case here. Notice that it trails off after here. I think it's about 100 characters in. I'm not entirely certain of where we do the line on that. I can, if this case seems like one of the ones that should be interesting to me, I can view the whole case. I can click View Document, and it's going to open up everything here. So same case, right? But all the details now. So we can scroll down. We can look at all this stuff. We can see the injury. We can see the result. We can see the trial length, the jury vote. We can, of course, see the award. I'm going to hop back to the search results rather than navigating through one by one. So I want to show you some other ways to look at this. If this seems like it's a little bit too intimidating to sort through kind of on your first pass, you just click Condensed View, and now you have the real hyper basics right here on the screen. You got the amount, the state, the venue, the type, the date, all right here in the beginning. I'm going to de-condense the view. If you're like me and you like working outside of the platform, you can do that. Click Export. You can bring it out into PDF or into Word. Let's go ahead and click on Word. So we'll just do the full case report. There's only 35 cases in here. So we'll click Export, and it looks like we'll block the pop-up. Oh, we did not block the pop-up. Great. All right. So let's drag this on over. So here we can see all this stuff right out into Microsoft Word. Looks like we've got about 33 pages worth of stuff. So about a page per each record, which makes sense. We can, again, come through here, read all the cases, get all of our relevant information. All right, let's hop back into the tool, because I think that's where we're going to want to stay for now. So let's go back to the search engine and talk about some of the other things that people are doing with VerdictSearch. So we had our first set of cases here. We wanted, ankle fracture injuries, and they had this kind of surgery. I don't want this anymore, right? So I can just click the reset button, and it blanks everything out and starts me right back with a nice clean slate. I was going over this earlier, and certainly the idea of an ankle injury with surgery is a compelling kind of 1-2 punch. But there are other ways you can look at this stuff as well. What I want to do now, I want to move over to the type of case, right? Which is kind of a differently rolled up way of looking at the information. And what I want to do is I want to come over here to, let's go to slips, trips, and falls. So we're going to highlight that. But I also want to go up and I want to make sure that there's a government involvement in this. Seems kind of sinister, I know. So I grab these two things. I'm going to click away. It shows me what I searched for here, right? So I got slip, strips, and falls with government. So notice again over here, we've got 25,000 results, but that's for either or. If I put them together, now we go down from 25,000 to about 1,000, right? So we're reducing by an enormous factor here. So if I've got a client and he was going to City Hall to pay his water bill and he slipped on a banana peel and fell into a fountain, right? This is where I come and find some of the many cases like that.
And Eric, we can tweak this one a bit further by opening up that government and just selecting municipalities. You can select any form of government, municipalities, states, counties. So whichever entity you're going against is the one you would select.
Gotcha. So we come right back to government, crack open the drop down. And again, by selecting government at the top level, I also selected everything underneath. So I'm going to deselect that, and it'll eliminate all these things. And so now let's say, let's go up against municipal government. So let's go municipalities.
Right.
So I click that, and now we're down to 814. So we were able to eliminate 200 cases that weren't going to match our fact pattern right there off the top.
This is useful because our VerdictSearch data has shown that the winning percentage for plaintiffs is far less when opposing a municipal defendant in these types of cases. And of course, on the other side, the winning percentage for the defense is far higher when it's a municipality defending the case. So if you're trying to assess the viability of your case, you certainly want to tweak the search according to who the defendant is.
Makes perfect sense. So we're going to ignore the geography here for a moment and kind of go down here, look at some things we hadn't looked at before, like the date range. So if we want to make sure that we're looking at the most recent stuff possible, we can select, you know what, only within the last 6 months or the last year. Let's go with the last year. That'll drop us down from 814.32. So now we've got a very highly targeted set of searches here. So I'm going to execute this. We'll take a quick look at the results. Then we'll hop back to the search engine. So you have municipalities, subscription and falls, all the information here about the case and everything that we want to know. Looks like this guy dragged on for a long time. You can see the action took place in 2010, but they just recently, I guess, closed things up. So an 8-year timeline on this, which is huge. All right, so let's go back to the search and let's tackle some other use cases. I feel like I've been talking for a long time about similar cases and fact patterns, which is important, but not to the exclusion of everything else. So we're going to reset this. So use case number 2 that we find a lot of our clients tackling is they want to come in here and they're thinking about an expert witness. Either they want to retain this person or they're going to go up against this person, and they just want to learn more about the expert witness, see the other cases that they have been involved in, how those things went. So if we scroll down here, we can find that information. So here under type of plaintiff, right, we can pop in an expert's name. Now there's an MD I was looking at earlier, Jordan Haber. So we're going to come here and just type. So now we got this one technical specialist attached to 8 different cases. So I'm gonna click search, and we can take a look at what this guy's been up to. Now, as the pop-up shows, we do have a whole separate experts product at alnexperts.com, which is our big expert witness directory. We're not doing that one right now. You can certainly link out from here to there when you're looking for information on experts. I recommend that you do so at some point, but that point is not right now. So let's take a look at this guy. We can see some recent stuff here from January of 18, and then last January as well, and then kind of just before that in October of 2016. So a couple cases from this guy over the past 18 months. We can see, and again, it highlights where we see information about the guy. So here we can see he was one of 2 experts involved here, one of 4 experts involved here, and so on. So we can see we've got decision for the plaintiff, verdict for the plaintiff, a settlement here of $1 million, verdict for the defendant, and so on. Verdict for the plaintiff, $775,000, and so on. So as I'm kind of walking through here, I can get a better idea of what this guy is, what he's capable of, and again, whether he's going to be on my side or the other side. The more information you have about who's going to be testifying, the better off you're going to be.
Hey, Eric.
Yes.
You were going to ask, but I'll just inject it anyway.
I was going to ask.
When you're doing your research on Mr. Haber, it may be helpful to know what types of cases he testifies in. Maybe and we've got experts in our database that are represented hundreds of times. So you may, when you do a search such as this one, get an unwieldy number of cases, but you run your search. But then if you move over to the left side, we can use the filters to identify the cases in which Mr. Haber testified. Let's say only in motor vehicle cases, or only in med mal cases, or only if there was a leg injury. You can select any of those to narrow it down to what you want. And again, this is a small search result, relatively small, so you probably want to look at everything. But if it were a larger search, we could really narrow it down.
Gotcha. Makes perfect sense. Before we pop back into the search engine and tackle some other use cases, a couple of questions have been coming in. I want to see which of those we can get tackled real quick. Let's see. Do we have any cases grouped for PTSD injuries?
Yes, we do.
I believe that we do. So let's go back to search.
Not this search, but yes, we do.
Oh, okay. So how would I go about finding those guys, Glenn?
Okay, so if we want to look for cases involving post-traumatic stress disorder, that's an injury. So you would use the type of injury field. So you can go over there and select it. And we categorize that under mental/psychological. Of course, this is our own taxonomy. So if the user were confused, didn't know where to look, they could always use the open search field at the very top of that window and just type in post-traumatic stress disorder, and it would bring them to the appropriate place. But I directed you where to go, so you know where to go.
Fair enough. All right, so here we are. So under mental and psychological, we can come in here, scroll, and we can see post-traumatic stress disorder. All right, excellent question. Thank you for it.
Let's see how many cases we get back with this.
All right, let's do it. Post-traumatic stress. We want to search 2,400 cases where post-traumatic stress disorder was a critical factor in the case. And again,
that's generally a good injury to search, because oftentimes that's the only injury in a case. Somebody went through some sort of emotional trauma, and that's the lasting result of it, as opposed to, let's say, the ankle fracture we ran earlier, where you may have that as one of several injuries. But this PTSD is an injury that usually stands alone, or in most cases stands alone.
So Glenn, the point you're trying to make is, let's say a guy gets his leg run over by a bus. He might have an ankle injury, but also a broken tibia, broken femur. All those things would be categorized as separate items. A search for any one would bring back the case, but in this case, PTSD is usually a standalone affliction, yes? Usually, yes, majority of the times. All right, good insight. All right, next question. Does the database contain information about settlement values? I believe we were just looking at those, yeah.
Not only the settlement values, but the insurers that paid those settlements. That's the real money number right there. You want to be able to see what a given insurer pays to settle a certain type of case. So if they're coming in, if you're a plaintiff's attorney and you're sitting across a negotiation and an insurer is offering you one number, you can take a look at your VerdictSearch information and say, well, they offered more than that for a similar case a few months ago.
You know what? You are getting ahead of me in the agenda, but I like it. Let's actually do that now, just because we're kind of already started talking about it. So that's another use case, right? So we're gonna reset this. The idea that when it comes time to settle, you want to have fact-based information rooted in actual precedent. How much does a specific insurance company, not just typical, how much does this insurance company that you're talking to usually pay on a claim that meets this fact pattern? If their average aggregate payout is $500,000 and they offer you $40 in a bus pass, you need to know that that's not up to snuff. So to do that, down here in the type of plaintiff box, right, we've got an insurance carrier field. So in this case, Glenn, we got just come here and just type in the name of the carrier, right?
Right.
So let's do Allstate. Pick on those guys because they're good friends of mine in another business. So here we've got just under 16,000 records dealing with Allstate as the insurer. And again, any one of the other sets of criteria that I'm going to put in here later, they're all going to tie back into Allstate, because whenever you're doing this thing where you're looking between fields, we talked about and or searches earlier. These are all going to be and searches. If you do the ankle injury over here and Allstate over here, it meshes the two together. So it's ankle injuries as paid out by Allstate. And so then you just execute the search, and again, same thing. Look for the cases that match criteria. Only this time you're paying much more careful attention to the dollar value of the payouts. And that's another way that VerdictSearch can help you get more for your client and some more value out of the tool overall. All right, excellent question. Let's see. Well, I like this one. All right, so this is the last question we're going to do right now, this second, and then we're gonna come back to other questions a little bit later, because I cannot believe we've already eaten through half of our time. All right, last question for the moment is there any known bias in the data collected? For example, if 60% of our data comes from plaintiff's counsel and 40% from defense, wouldn't that give us more favorable percentage kind of in aggregate ruling for the plaintiff instead of the defendant? It wouldn't change all of, and so now I'm kind of ad-libbing off the question. And obviously we can change the details in any one case, but does it change the overall picture that we're looking at? Glenn, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so this bears a discussion of how we get our cases. We do accept voluntary submissions from attorneys, so there's a bit of a bias element there in that an attorney tends to report a case with a more favorable outcome, right? If you've got a $20 million verdict, you're more inclined to report it to us than you are if you have a $2,000 verdict. However, that's probably about 20% of the cases in our database, the cases that were reported to us voluntarily. The other 80% are cases that we acquire by cold calling off of court docket lists, and we do not discriminate at all when we're going through these lists. Plaintiff's verdict, defense verdict, big dollar amount, little dollar amount. So we're going after the entire thing with the idea that if we get a very small verdict, or of course defense verdict, that's valuable to have in the database as well, because it provides an accurate cross-section of the results. And in our verdict collection process, we sometimes have attorneys who will say to us, well, why did you call me? Because it's only a $2,000 verdict. You don't want to report this one. And we have to explain to them that, yes, we do, because we want an accurate cross-section. So, yeah, while it occasionally is skewed toward the high-end numbers, we do approach both sides equally in our cold calling, plaintiff's defense, big, small cases.
Very good. All right. Thank you for the insight. Okay, so we looked at finding cases of similar fact pattern. We looked at expert witnesses. Now it is time to move on to the judges. So down here, again, in the type of plaintiff area, we've got a box for judge. Same basic concept as when you are looking up information on the expert witness. If you know you're going, or your client is going before a particular judge, and you want to kind of learn how that judge feels about certain issues, you can just come here, pop in the name of that judge, and in every case we have flagged through that judge will come to the surface. In this case, we're going to pick on Lucy Coe, because I was at a trade show yesterday, and they were and their selection for a random judge was Lucy Coe, and so I figured we would go ahead and pick on her as well. So actually, so that's worth noting. A moment ago, I had no results, right? If you've done a search and you see that there's no results over here, it's usually because you haven't reset it. You still got some other criteria lurking somewhere that they hadn't thought of. In my case, I hadn't yet blanked out the insurance carrier, because Lucy Coe has no cases with Allstate. That's why I've got the 0. Well, watch what happens when I just remove this. Now we've got 16 cases, right? So same basic concept. I can do my search, come here. I can see judge is Lucy Coe, Lucy Coe, Lucy Coe, Lucy Coe, and so on, right? So this all this information on her. And again, you can just kind of walk through and look at fact patterns, look at precedents, so that if you're going to go before her, you might want to throw back in her face what she had done before, but at least to give you an idea of how she is likely to go based on a certain set of circumstances. This can give you, I think, some insight into that. Let's go back to the search engine, which is, I think, probably going to be for one of our last times in doing this. There are some things that VerdictSearch is capable of that require you to put in some real elbow grease to get at them. But the data that you can mine out of here is enormous. So we're going to reset this again. Let's just do a real simple. Let's go with amputation. We're just going to kind of pick a couple at random. So you got 1,800, almost 1,900 documents here. Let's say I want to see kind of how men and women are treated differently in these kinds of cases, right? I can do my real top level stuff with the amputation, come down here to gender, and look at male versus female in terms of the plaintiff. Maybe there's no difference at all, but maybe it's a really big difference, right? I can come here, I can select male, it brings me down not that much. So it looks like we only got about 400. Oh, here we go. So about 800 cases where there's a female amputee, and about 1,400 cases where there is a male amputee. The crossover is where I guess there's some incident that involved both men and women. So in this case, let's actually just run the search for the men. Now, 1,443 is a lot of documents to look through, right? We've got pages and pages and pages, especially at 10 guys a page. What I like to do in this kind of situation is you can go up to the 50 or more per page. So you're getting a lot more in one section here. So we'll just scroll down. Lots and lots of stuff here. And we can kind of move towards the middle and towards like a median value. We can sort, instead of sorting by date, we're going to sort by the amount. So now I got my biggest cases at the very top, and if I go to the end, I have my very smallest cases, right? So that means the truth is going to lie somewhere in the middle, right? Somewhere around, we got 20 pages worth of stuff. So let's say somewhere around page 10. We're going to have information on roughly, we can see the statistical clustering here, right? We've got the median values, 1.6 million, 1.6 million, 1.6 million, 1.6 million, right? So from a stats perspective, here's our median value for one of these payouts. And again, yes, the circumstances of any one case are not going to be the same as from another case from the past, no matter how relevant it was. But at least to give you a ballpark of what you should be looking for, what you should be pricing at. All of this information is here in the search results. Now, if this level of claim research, of jury research, if that's just kind of too much, you just want to tell someone what to do and have them do it. I have good news. We offer that option as well. Whether you're an existing subscriber to the tool or you just kind of want like a one-time report, we have a research on call division. And all you got to do is click this button here on top, explain to your kids that this is what a phone icon needs to look like. And if you've got a complex case and complex needs, you can reach out to us, get one of our people on the phone, give them your fact pattern, give them some parameters, and they can go in and they have ways of accessing the data beyond the front end of the tool. They can actually get into the guts of the thing using SQL and kind of all these fun things. Rip out the exact data that you're looking for, polish it up, get it over to you. Turnaround time can be as little. Glenn, I think we offer same day, right? In those rare cases when you just absolutely got to have it.
Right, that's the rush service. 2 days normal.
Yep. So all right, so it takes 2 days normally to get the stuff back. There is a rush service involved. Depending on how deep in this you want to go, you certainly can turn it on and off as needed.
And it's also effective if you've got a really complex case. You want to engage a lot of parameters, and you're just not getting what you want on the web end of it. You can always call and have one of our trained professionals actually do the search for you.
Excellent. Let's go up to the billing calculator, everybody's favorite part. So we recognize that when you are in here and conducting your research, whether it's you or your paralegal or whomever, you need to be able to keep track of how much time is spent on here so that when you go to bill your client, you can bill them correctly and effectively. We have a billing calculator that allows you to keep track of that very thing, right? In this case, I was planning on this earlier, and I created a client matter for my grievous injuries. We can do a new one here. So let's say this is matter number, 555, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll call this test case. We'll save it. So now I've got this matter up here, right, for the client. So when it comes time for me to do the research on this particular instance, I just come right here to track time, and I can click this little start button, and it starts the clock. It counts up in second intervals, right? And so I can now navigate away from here. I can do my other searches. I can go here to home or run a search or look at, recent cases with searches. Oh, isn't this interesting? And then when I've done my research, I've satisfied my obligation to the client, great. Come back here to billing calculator, track time. You can see we're still going. We'll just click stop. Now I can bill my client for those 40 seconds. Now, obviously, that's a hyperbolic example. You're not going to bill 40 seconds, I hope. But depending on how you bill, you'll at least be able to keep an accurate reckoning of how much time you're spending in this tool. So let's kind of shut this one down. Let's go back to the home screen, because there's some cool stuff on here that we haven't really gotten into. So I was so gung-ho about getting you guys into the search engine. All right, so we have a couple of the obvious things, right? So we have the big search engine, and we just talked about the phone research, the research on call, which you can link to from here or up here in the top level navigation. Any recent cases that you looked at are going to be here as well. Any of these ones you called up on the screen, it saves it with a date and a timestamp. You can see I've been in here a lot today. We can see the time. We can see I like man hit by falling tree. Apparently, looked at that a couple times. Notable verdicts and settlements here on the top. We can see the most recent stuff coming into the tool. We have some stuff from July, a lot of stuff from June, and so on. What I really like is when I make Glenn do a lot of work, and that has become our VerdictSearch Insights section, which you can link to from right here, or even up here again in the top nav. So we'll click here. VerdictSearch Insights is basically me going to Glenn and saying, hey, you're kind of the established and authoritative expert on this. What if you did a bunch of work that we could slap up on the website? And lo and behold, we got what I like to call Glenn's Corner, but nobody else followed me on the name. VerdictSearch Insights is the actual name of the tool. But what's happening here is Glenn is showcasing some of the research that can be done if you've got access to this data. I like plaintiff success versus jury's wealth status, right? So using nothing but data, it's publicly available or that comes right out of the tool, right? Glenn put together these graphs that actually show us how successful plaintiffs are when juries have a certain amount of wealth, right? Glenn, do you want to take a moment and just kind of walk us through some of the real basics here and some of the what insight you derived from this?
Sure, thanks. So we're looking at the chart on the right side, plaintiff success versus jury's wealth status, and the bars, the red, gold, and green. The green ones depict jurors. We're going to call them upper class jurors. They're the median income there is $30,000 a year. The gold bars are jurors whose yearly income is between $20,000 and $30,000, and the red is somebody whose yearly income is below $20,000. And what we're showing is the bars are showing the plaintiff's chance of winning at trial. We're not doing the amount that they win, just win or lose. And almost across the board, it's showing that the jurors of the lower economic status are more favorable to plaintiffs than the wealthy jurors are. So it's if you're a plaintiff's attorney, it's to your advantage. Generally speaking, all other factors being equal, it's to your advantage to have jurors of relatively less wealth. And of course, if you're on the defense side and you're doing voir dire, you want to lean toward wealthier jurors. And you can. The good thing about this is we've only taken 4 states in this study, but of course you can check any of the 50 states, and you can even check counties within those states to get the data specific to your area.
So if you're
this
looking
was
at
done also, the chart, I know the text is kind of small, probably so if you're looking, more so if you're looking at it on a phone, but it explains how to run that search yourself. There you go, thank you. It explains how to run the search yourself, so you can go ahead and do all this information on your own. But one of the things you do need is the per capita income, and it explains in there where how we got that from. You can just Wikipedia that or Google that.
Yep. Okay. All right. So I think we've got how many insights do we have now? I know there's at least
there are 5 now, and I think we've got 5 more coming in the next few weeks.
Looks like we got 6 up here right now. So we're getting there. These we publish usually once every 2 weeks or so, maybe a little bit more or less depending on vacation schedules in summer and so on. This is a relatively new addition to VerdictSearch, but it has been a smash hit so far. All right, let's see. I think now is the right time to hit some of the other questions. We've got about 15 minutes left. We'll take a few more questions, and I will aim to refund you guys with 10 minutes or so you can get ready for, if you're like me, what is inevitably your next meeting. All right, let's see. Trying to find questions that are not repetitive to stuff that we have already answered. Let's see. Okay, so how do you acquire settlement values when such information is confidential?
Well, the answer there is that we don't report confidential cases. For the settlements we report, we need to know not only, of course, the amount of the settlement, but the identity of the insurers who paid that settlement.
Gotcha. Let's see, another how is information compiled? I think we've already gone through that.
Well, it is important to note that unlike other verdict reporting outlets, we compile our information by speaking to the attorneys who actually tried the case. So I think everybody on the call probably understands that it's not an effective reporting tactic to just write cases off the bill of particulars or off of the complaint, because the information is broad and it often changes by the time you go to trial. We wait until the trial is over or until the settlement has been struck, and then we speak to the attorneys and we get the most up-to-date information. And by dealing with attorneys from each side of the case, we're kind of ensuring that we've got our facts correct.
Excellent. So rather than just going off of regurgitating a page repeat or something like that, we're actually talking with the actual attorneys that were involved in the case, and that's where the information comes from. We get the confirmation, and we actually have a human being interviewing that person every step of the way.
That's correct. We have journalists on our side doing all of these cases.
Excellent. Let's see. We got here. Question, is there an app or is the site mobile responsive? There is no app at present time, but the site is indeed mobile responsive. So yes, it will work on your tablet or your phone. I will say this, I don't know that the phone is a super great way to digest this information. It's functional there. I would say you'd want at least something with like an iPad style screen. I'm biased, I do all my work on desktops, but I get that mobile is more and more the future. Can you address the alerts feature? Sure can. So at the top of the screen, you see this little Manage Alerts button. If I click on Manage Alerts, you can create an alert based off of a search that you've done. So let's hop back to the search engine real quick. So we'll go back to, you can go to search. So let's go right back to the amputees. Run our search. Once the search is run, we can add to our set of saved searches. So we click on this. We're going to search. So now we got search saved successfully. So now when I go to Manage Alerts, I need to go to save. Oh,
Eric, you can actually do it a lot simpler just by, you just saw it, save as alert.
Yeah, sorry about that. All right, so we click save as alert. And so now, so let's call this the amputation alert, which sounds like a weird name for a band. But so what the alerts are going to do is it's going to send you information on when new cases are added that are tagged in such a way that they would have appeared within this result. You can opt to get that alert on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So I'm going to go, let's call it monthly. I'll save it. And so now it's been saved. So now when I go to manage alerts, I can see the alert that's running, how often I'm getting information on it, when I actually created the alert, and if I want to come back and rerun that search, I click a run search, and it'll kind of run me back. It'll bring me back to this exact same screen, so maybe not useful now. If I want to delete it, I can click a little X. In this case, yeah, why not? And now I've got no more safe alerts. But good question asker. Thank you. Let's see. Are the cases only after a verdict has been reached, or are there cases and settlements prior to trial?
The answer to that is everything is final after either a verdict or a settlement. We do not hold cases for appeals and post-trial motions, so you'll often see that something is pending, and we will explain the nature of it. We do also, though, cases settled without a suit being filed, so direct recoveries versus insurers. There are relatively fewer amount of those, but they are in there. So if somebody just is involved in an automobile accident, files a claim against Geico, and it settles for the policy limit, we will accept those cases, and there are some of those reported in here.
Gotcha. Let's see. Is there a history function? Yeah, when you're in the search result, there's a date range. It defaults to looking at everything, but you can specify the timeline in either a custom way or select from the last 6 months, 1, 5, or 10 years. We've got some data that goes as far back as, I want to say, like the mid to late 80s, but certainly, that is the exception and not the rule.
Right. It's different than every state.
Yep. Is this available for searches in South Carolina? I believe yes. South Carolina, let me check.
Sure, we have. Yep.
Is this
a long time?
We got it. So you can see we got 2,500 records for South Carolina, ranging from all kinds of matters, all kinds of injuries. You can see here pretty good representation on every one of our top level topics. So yes, this is available for South Carolina. And I think that's about it on the non-repetitive questions. So it's 1:50. It's probably a good time to wrap things up. Glenn, if people have an interest in learning more about VerdictSearch, where can they go to do that? Is the best place to go simply VerdictSearch.com? Is there a number they can call? Should I have them page you? What's the best way here?
Right there, what Eric just popped up, the home screen is the best place to go. The four icons, the four red icons along the bottom half of the screen can provide it explains the different services that we provide with the search function, and the top nav bar will show you some of the more recent verdicts we've reported. It gives you our pricing plans and the various solutions we provide. Everything is right there.
We also have this, what I like to refer to as the ticker of horror along the bottom of the screen with some of the more recent cases as well. All right, so you got the toll-free number up here. You got a link to email. If you're a lawyer and you want to submit a verdict, hey, go nuts. Click here, submit a verdict. We love when stuff comes in from you guys because we know we're going to get a lot of great information on it, and that's one. Excuse me. That's
and
wonderful. Okay.
When you submit a verdict, you get 2 coupons for 25% off a search. So it's better for you to call us before we call you.
There you go. And if you sign up now, we'll get you a free football phone. No, I'm thinking of something else. We've had a few more questions come in. All right, let's take one or two of these before we break. Let's see. Well, email is needed. Can get a quick overview of my saved cases and search history. Yeah. So let's see. I don't think I have any saved cases. So my recent cases here, right? These are things that I looked at recently when I actually clicked through to the full text of the case. So that's what we've got here. When you've got a search history and saved cases, so you can click on this guy up here. So here will show you your most recent searches. In this case, the one that I just did. Like with most programs, you can flag a case for later review. You can save it. You can bookmark it. This is where you would go find those things. We'll do a super fast search and then get you guys out the door. So let's go right back. Let's go to arms this time. I like arms. I got 2 of them. So we'll run a search for arms. Let's say, yeah, I like this, and I like this. I can add the search to my saved searches, right? Which we can do. And then I believe saving these individual cases. So once I've clicked through to a case, I can click Add to Saved Cases. So now I've got myself a little briefcase style thing at the top of the screen. So I can look at my saved cases and search history. So here are the 2 searches I have saved. I can see, so I got my arms and I got my amputations. 6,000 results here, 2,000 results here, or my saved cases. This one that we're looking at for the arms. Middle driver denied fault in 3 vehicle rear ender. An excellent last question to end on. Everybody, I want to say thank you so much for your time, attention, and the excellent questions this afternoon. I hope you've learned something more about what we're trying to do with VerdictSearch, and you're excited to take some next steps with us. If you're a current client, call your account rep and tell them how much you love VerdictSearch and use it every day. If you're not a current client, you should definitely become one so you can make that same phone call. If you have any questions at all, you can reach out to us, and we will be happy to respond. Thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you so much, Glenn, for joining me as well and for educating us all about what you can do with VerdictSearch.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Have a good afternoon, guys. Bye-bye.